save a ton of money, right? No? No, it's not an owl, it's a kitty cat. There was a super happy surprise that happened at the very end. No! Are we seeing a Goldilocks theme here, perhaps? Hello, I am Tamara and I teach beginner sewing tutorials here on YouTube. But today is gonna be a little bit different. The story, of course, starts over 10 years ago. It starts essentially when my oldest was first born. So he's 16 now, so I guess 16 years ago, I was gifted this animal rag quilt for my son when he was first born. And you can tell it is so well loved. The ear is starting to rip. I really do have to fix that. But this was what started everything that I love about rag quilts. And of course, this was the very, very first pattern I came across, and it was the puppy dog pattern. I fell in love with this. I have made oodles of these rag quilts and many others over time. But as I was making all of these rag quilts for my nieces and nephews, I started to imagine that maybe I had some ideas for my own animal rag quilts. But I didn't want to just copy what I knew. I wanted to make something that was my own. I'm really inspired by the Japanese, I don't know how you say the word, kawaii maybe? I don't know. It's a term that just means cute. And the reason why I'm focusing on the Japanese term that just means cute is because the Japanese are really good at making cute things. My boys have brought many stuffies into my home throughout the years, and a lot of those stuffies are those Japanese inspired stuffies where there's somehow this added cuteness even though they've taken away a lot of the details from the animal. So I thought, I like how they do that, and I think I want to try and turn that into an animal rag quilt. And I came up with a cat and a dog. So let's just say printout number 1 was this right here, a small amount of pattern pieces. And once I cut them all out and I measured it, the whole thing measured 3 feet high. I was like, no, an animal rag quilt that's like 3 feet could be super cute for a toddler, and I might do that in the future. But I just wanted like a good, bigger animal rag quilt. So I went back to the drawing board to try and make my second animal rag quilt, and I may have overcompensated. I printed out all the paper pieces, and I actually did not visually see that it was going to be too big. So let me show you what it turned out to be. So this is the quilt that I made. So this is number 2, and I actually sewed it together. And like I said, I overcompensated. So it is 6 feet tall. Oh my goodness, I made it way, way too big. So obviously pattern 1 was too small, pattern 2 was too big. Are we seeing a Goldilocks theme here, perhaps? So number 3, completely the right size. So I showed it to my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, and I was very proud of it, okay? And I showed it to them, and I realized I didn't tell them what it was, and they kept looking at it in utter confusion. And I thought, like, why aren't they excited about it the same way that I am? I mean, obviously they don't get the amount of time and effort I've put into it, but I thought they'd at least say something like, oh, it's cute. So they stared at it for a while, and I was like, do you like it? They're like, they didn't know what it was. So then they asked if it was an owl, and I was like, no, it's not an owl, it's a kitty cat. So it turns out when you take the mouth away and you give it an adorable heart nose, that kind of looks like a beak. So I had the size right, but I still had to figure out how to make this clearly a kitty cat. So back to the drawing board. But I did succeed. So I guess this Goldilocks takes 4 tries. This is the final result of the kitty cat. Oh, I added whiskers. I did not want to add a mouth. So then I started to work on the puppy dog, and at least I was smart enough to know that I should ask questions before I sew the whole thing. I made a few mock-up ears, and I laid them on top of the pattern face. I kind of laid out all of the features, and I showed my children, and I said, what do you think? And they disappointed me by telling me that both ears made it look like a bunny. No, it's a puppy dog, it's not a bunny. I have gone through many iterations on my computer of different dog ears, and these were the two that I thought would be winners. Alas, they are not. So I've gone back to the drawing board. I drew a bunch more, and honestly, I think that this is going to be the right ear because it also is going to be a bit smaller, so it'll take less fabric, which is good as well because I don't want you to have to buy a ton of fabric. The ears take up so much of the face that you actually don't see a ton of the facial features. I had to kind of, unlike the cat where the facial features can be all spread out, I had to take those facial features and squish them into the middle. So then I felt like a mouth was necessary. It finished the puppy dog. Okay, this is the puppy dog. Now, I get that like this fabric is quite dark, so it's hard to see the mouth on camera. It does look good in person, I promise. And in the future, I will definitely be using like a lighter fabric for the face so that the little mouth can pop out more. But I am so happy with how the puppy dog turned out. Its ears are adorable, whether they're hanging down or, let's see if I can show you here. See, look how cute they are. So I have now made a cat and a dog. I've had no complications. People know what it is. And so now all I have to do is go buy really nice fabric so that I can remake these, but make them in like enticing fabric color options so that they'll photograph well, they'll look good on Pinterest. I have been working on my storefront, which I'm really excited about. And I have pretty much finished my pattern. The only thing that's left for my pattern is final photos of the actual final product, which I want to wait for the tutorial rag quilt to be finished. I've made a bunch of these now, but I really want that one to be front and center on the pattern PDF. However, errors occurred. So the purple kitty cat and the green puppy dog, I bought that fabric at a local fabric store where you can buy a lot of cheap fabric and you can get sales on fabric. And so I bought all that I needed to make those quilts. However, they were having such a good sale, I bought a whole bolt of their white flannel because I knew I'm going to be making more rag quilts. I may as well just stock up on white bolt fabric because that goes in the middle of your rag quilt, and then I'll save a ton of money, right? And then I went to my local quilt shop where they have high-end fabric. I bought gorgeous fabric and I cut out all of the pieces. I put both the cat and the dog together. I sewed it all together, and I used the white flannel from the bolt that I purchased from the cheap fabric store. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? Because this is what happened. The first two iterations that I did with the cheaper fabric, after I washed and dried them, they didn't wrinkle. Like, look at this kitty cat here. I'm so happy with how it turned out. It didn't wrinkle at all because all three flannels were from the same store, probably from the same company that created all of these flannels. So they shrunk at the same rate. And I am telling you, this rag quilt shrunk 3 inches, which is crazy. A high quality flannel would not shrink 3 inches. And it didn't because I made this adorable kitty cat. Like I said, still super proud of it, but my middle cheap flannel layer shrunk more than my quality outer layers. So you probably can't see so much on the face, but as you get to the body, again, maybe you can't tell so much on camera here, which is really nice. And honestly, it doesn't even bother me in person, but when I tried to take pictures of them, no matter what I did, you just saw wrinkles because this layer didn't shrink as much as the inside layer. So if you ever do make my animal rag quilt pattern, which if I have not mentioned is in the description down below, I highly recommend that you just buy all your flannel from the same store or pre-wash, and then you won't run into this problem. Should I show you the puppy dog? Also, super proud of this puppy dog. Love how it looked, love all of the fabrics, but again, it has that wrinkled texture because of that, like, outer layers didn't shrink as much as my cheaper inner layer did. So that was disappointing, but can I tell you, I have been working on this project from like drawing it up to now, sewing so many versions. It's been at least 6 months, and I tackled this thing hard this summer. So I took a trip and traveled to go see my family in northern BC, and I was busy like snipping those seams in the truck. My poor husband, there are fibers all over his truck. He has to take like an air compressor to clean his truck out because those fibers went everywhere. But I wanted to get this project done by the end of summer so that if you wanted to make either of these animal rag quilts that I am so proud of, you are going to be able to do so before Christmas. Oh, and can I tell you, there was a super happy surprise that happened at the very end. I did just want to show you how much lint came out of my dryer after I washed and dried my animal rag quilt. So this was the kitty cat, and this is how much lint I pulled out. It really is not as much as you would expect to come from any rag quilt. It's probably the least amount I've ever had come from a rag quilt. So I just wanted to point that out because I'm super excited about that, and I think the reason being is because there's actually not a ton of rag quilt seams, which is great news for your hand and for your dryer. So less fiber mess, less hand snipping, and you still end up with an awesome product, in my humble opinion. I am so proud of it. I hope that you will check it out. I have it linked in the description down below. And please hit that subscribe button so you don't lose me on YouTube, so that in the future you will hear about more of my projects that I've got coming down the pipes. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.